right, good evening, everybody. This is Javi from Team Genesis. I have Daniel, Tristan, Darren, Panda. I was gonna say, TM, but I like Panda better, so we're gonna keep that. Landon, Pono, Sam, and Willie here today. We're gonna take it away, and we're gonna start at the top of the agenda for today. Go ahead, Daniel.
All right, so the first thing is, the 2021 Ancient Battles tins come out on the 1st, so it's going to be this weekend. So to start off, we want to look at the notable cards that are going to be coming out, especially like the reprints coming out. I know Nobleman's coming out, so does anybody have any other reprints that you guys really think is going to impact like the meta for you
guys?
Triple T. Is there any B Trooper cards coming out?
Yeah, Triple T. No, B Trooper is in the latest set, so it's not going to be in the tins. But
oh damn! Sorry, Darren.
It's not a super relevant reprint, but I really love how Secret Rare Ecclesia looks.
That's pretty sick. True. Yeah, prismatic secrets.
It's so good. And I can't wait to search it off of Nadir Servant.
Hell yeah.
I also really like, I think going off of, I think it was Landon who said it, like tactics, like with that being reprinted, like it's going to be on a lot more decks, because a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players, the reason why they don't have a lot of, you know, really good cards because they're expensive, right? And with the reprints, it impacts the meta because now more people are going to have that.
Exactly. And I think like it's interesting because even, I mean, I play at locals. And I think when we were playing the YCS, it was kind of interesting too, because I wonder if, I know there was a big discussion. There were so many people who joined that YCS because you would literally like pick up like a salad deck, right? Whatever you had pre-pandemic, you would pick up. It's not that people even picked up new cards, but I mean, when you see the top cut, they're obviously new cards, people playing tactics and things like that. But I think when the cards are more accessible, it'll be interesting to see even from like a locals level how that impacts it.
Yeah, especially with like reprint like Ice Dragon's Prison, where they were what, like $30 ultra rares.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Now they're gonna be reprinted, and
well, to be fair, those cards were not very expensive when they first came out.
True, they were like what, like couple bucks, few dollars or whatever.
The problem is because it was pandemic time. We were right in the middle of a pandemic. No one picked up, and that's why those sets
were
like
events.
No, exactly. There were no events. Crazy. Not a whole lot of people picked up those sets, even though it did sell out after. But I think that was like when it was hype time.
Yeah. Also, like
at the time, it was Block Dragon Turbo, so like
true.
Didn't really do anything.
Yo, I think also like everyone having like cheaper Lulus, Virtual World Lulu.
Yeah, Virtual World got a huge, you know.
I think like
I think what the tins really do is they let everyone really play what hasn't been played. They haven't been able to play due to costs, right?
Yeah.
Like it gives everyone kind of like right when tins drop, it gives everyone around the same kind of chance because like there's no real price thing. But here's the issue with the tins. The tins did not have access code talker, and they didn't have forbidden droplet. True, we're getting droplet later, but because they didn't have access code in it, that's huge. Because now that's still like what, $150, $180? Like that's still a high cost.
My counter to that would be like, is that a bad thing? Like, and I know I saw like all over Facebook,
I don't think it's a bad thing.
They talk about accessibility of cards, right? Yeah. And I know a lot of people don't like it that reprints happen because it decreases the value. Personally, I think Droplet was done because, number one, it got the Alti reprint. It would have tanked both the Alti and it would have tanked the Secret Rare value too. And it's going to be reprinted later, we're assuming. But I just...
Oh, no, it's confirmed.
Oh, no. It's definitely confirmed in the Brothers of Legends.
Oh, nice.
It's in the description,
So it is confirmed, then, which is good. And they probably, like same with access code, they're saying that there's like a new, I think in the Gold series, there's like a new art to it. But I just think that in terms of accessibility when it comes to cards, I mean, I know from my locals perspective, obviously it makes you a better player when you go up against better decks. I know my local guys are going to love that they have access to the dog package because everyone wants to have the Dogmatica package. They just couldn't because how much were Nadirs? Like 70, 80?
Yeah. Yes.
Like $100 for the fucking board.
Yeah. Too much.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is like playing for locals, like no one really cared about it. Like for the YCS, I think for the YCS too, people mostly borrow. Like, I mean, I borrowed all my cards, so I always borrow my cards. But anyway,
but my thing is, Darren, is not a lot of people have access to friends who would just let them borrow like $100 cards.
that's true.
You know what I mean? And like, I think that's where like we kind of have an advantage as a group because we let each other borrow cards, or like we know people who let us borrow cards, or like even buy cards. Like that's not our issue. So like, and I think in the like the competitive mindset and like gameplay with the tins is like it really doesn't matter besides cross out designator because we already have the cards we need or access to the cards we need.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think the only reason the tin's gonna really shift the meta is through the cross out designator.
But don't you guys find it really interesting that so? And I mean, like, I think Sam was into this even. This is like post-pandemic, but a lot of people went into collecting cards, right? Like the old school cards, and they started purchasing those.
Yep.
Things like talent.
I'm far too into that right now.
I remember that because you bought my e-hero, but exactly, that's exactly what it is. Like, people totally discounted like staples. No one gave a shit about talents. No one gave a shit about droplets. Like, nobody cared about those cards because everyone was like, well, we're not playing. I remember I had those cards and I tried selling lightning storms and I couldn't sell mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the big elephant in the room. What do you guys think of Crossout Designator, and how do you think that it's going to affect deck building moving forward?
So I know me and Tristan had a really good talk over the weekend when I was over.
No change whatsoever. No, I'm just messing. It's gonna be there's gonna be no change whatsoever. No, yeah, Danny can take it away. I was just messing.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I think that the reason why this affects deck building is because you have to play one-ofs and like combo decks, right? But like, I don't really know if you're able to play this in a control variant, right, to kind of like counter it, or if like you're, if you're playing Prank Kids and like you lose to Ash or you lose to like a Nib or a Droll, right? Like it impacts it a lot, but how much does it really impact it if like if you're seeing those cards in your hand, or if you're playing Desires, like it changes the way that decks are going to be built.
Yeah, and so here's my biggest thing with Cross Out Designator is like it is a meta warping card that exists. So deck building completely changes because we used to just be like, okay, we want to play like 3 Nib, 3 Ash. We just want to try to play all the impact hand traps we can. But now you want to diversify your hand traps because if Crossout Designator is being played, you probably don't want to be playing the hand traps that is in everybody's decks. Or even in like if you watch OCG, it's fine that they go with minimal hand traps, or sometimes you'll see 2 ofs, 2, 1, a 3 of here because it's a high impact and they want this, and they just want their hand traps to kind of resolve. The other thing I see with Crossout Designator is in mid-range, like kind of matches that go back and forth, is that card's kind of huge. If you watch like Prank Kids go back and forth, like if you set up your board and then set Designator, like they have no shot of coming back because you literally like just Designator whatever. They go Extender, you Designator Poly. They go Pandemonium, you Designator Pandemonium. You go Fansies effect, they Designator Fansies out of their deck. It's a very good card, and it creates a lot of good. I think deck building that's really important going into every event, because before you used to be able to just play the old deck, right? Copy a YCS Champions deck, and then you probably wouldn't top the next event, but you could do well, right? Because I mean you're playing the deck from the event before, but now with Crossout Designator in the meta, you really can't do that because everyone's going to change. All the good players are just going to change what hand traps they use going into the next event, or not even play those cards that everyone's playing Crossout Designator for. So for me, I see Designator as a huge meta-defining card.
Just to clarify what Tristan was saying, like when he's talking about Poly Pandemonium, like those things are mirror matches. And like mirror matches, we hate mirror matches in a way, right? Like ever since like the beginning of the time of like spellbook mirror matches or Dragon Ruler mirror match, any kind of mirror match that you have to do with your deck, it creates like a weird situation, right? So it's not always the best, but like it makes the mirror match definitely like weirder because now you can use, cross out. It could be an offensive card to push through your combos so you prevent their hand traps, or it could be a defensive card that you could hit something like if you're playing virtual world, like the mirror match, like you hit whatever, right? Like a Lulu or something. So like you could do it in like those aspects of it, but it's just, yeah, I think in terms of cross out, it makes for interesting deck building. I see, this is where I differ from Tristan in my perspective, is that because we have, we still have we have the same format. We have the same format of Prank Kids definitely, got hurt. We have Drytron that barely got hurt because I think some people were only playing one Eva. Like your format, you still have Dragon Link. You try still a deck too. Like the thing is that the reason I think that in terms of hand traps is like you can play the lower, like the least impactful hand traps, but you still have to play those high impact ones. You still have to put Cycle Reader at 3 or 2 in your side deck for Drytron. Like that's not changing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
Because those cards are just auto win cards. And Nibiru, you're not changing that because it's more. And I think when Tristan's talking about diversifying your hand traps, it's more so the low impact. But then you also have to look at it this way, and this is where there's like this real counter to cross out, is that will slower decks play cross out? I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't, because what do hand traps really do to your deck? If you're playing Outlet and you set 5 pass, you're not going to want cross out designator, right? But then if you're playing combo where you do want cross out, you have to accompany it with other hand traps that brick your hand essentially. So like that's where I'm saying, like, as good of a card as it is, you have to look at the drawback in the card.
Yeah, and I think like, and in my opinion, even in the decks out now, like it would be extremely hard to main deck a card like Cross Out Designator and let's say Drytron, because even when you get interrupted, you need the rest of your hand to like play, and you can't afford to draw, like, let's say I play 1 of or 2 of hand traps for my Cross Out Designator. I can't still afford to draw those cards because they don't really do anything, right? Like they don't extend my game state, and that's my issue with Cross Out, is because if you main deck Cross Out and Drytron, then you will draw Cross Out Designator and the hand traps, and those cards do not help you combo. You know what I mean? They help stop your opponent if they have it. If they don't have it, then it's just dead, and like you just can't do anything.
Well, that's the whole theory behind, do you play, like, this is the whole reason why people don't play talents, right? Do you go all gas, meaning all extenders, all starters, etc., or do you go something like talent that is an interactive card that relies on your opponent having to do something first? Personally, my opinion, I don't like those cards. I hate when I'm when I'm relying on my opponent to do something, because in my opinion, that's not effective Yu-Gi-Oh! To me, that's like you're rolling the dice here. You're like, does he have a hand trap? Let's just wait for it to see. And if they hand trap you at the most vulnerable time, like, for example, when you get drolled, right?
Yeah.
You're basically down to one effect. You're down to one effect for talents, which is look at your opponent's hand. Amazing effect, no doubt, but how does that play through? Like, you have to hope that the rest of your hand is gas.
Yep.
It doesn't further your
Yeah, that's the thing, is that those two don't. Well, talents doesn't really further your game state, right? I'm telling you, if called by or designator resolves, you're probably advancing your game state. But the cost of putting in 6 cards that don't, like, let's say if I only put 1 of each hand trap and 3 designator, me putting in 6 cards that don't help me combo, 3 that are bricks, well, kind of bricks in quotation.
Yeah, it's air quotes.
Yeah, is really tough on deck building, and that's what I'm saying. Like,
exactly. And when you look at the OCG and the way that they play their decks, right? Like, you see the decks that are doing well over there. Because I had a chance just before this to look at it, and like Tri Brigade, Sword Soul, like those things are like kind of like semi 1-card combos, right? Some of them are 2-card combos, 1.5, let's call it, I think, to be grammatically accurate. But I think at the same time, it's just like Tristan was saying, I think, like, do you play extenders? Do you play? I think, like, personally, looking at this from a Dragon Link perspective, because I love Dragon Link, I think it's really good cross out because I'm already playing. So the way that I deck build, and I'll give insight into the secrets of how I deck build. I don't believe in trap cards. I never have for the longest time. Maybe I think the last time I did was anti-spell Imperial Order, but I don't believe in trap cards, and Tristan knows this too when it comes to Eldritch. I don't believe in them. I think the new age trap cards are hand traps.
Yeah.
So, and hand traps work going first or second. So for me, and if you look at my Dragon Link deck at the YCS, 10 hand traps across the board going first. I sided, 6 more, I think. So in total, I think against Drytron, I had 16 or 18 hand traps or something like that. But like that's like for my deck building and how I do it, I try to make sure that like my trap cards are my hand traps. So like for me, and in that's why I like a deck like Dragon Link, because it's a 1 card. Technically it can be a 1 card or 1.5 again, if we're saying Chaos Space has to discard a light or a dark. But then you can also you have hand traps inherently in your deck, whereas for Drytron, that's not the situation or the case, because Drytron, you can't have hand traps in your hand. They rely heavily on their entire hand, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, with Drytron, it's more about using all of your hand to sequence whatever you need to through the board. And that's, I think, what we've realized through all the matches we've played, is that even if you get hand trapped, you're going to have to use your whole hand. And that's why I'm not a big fan of Dragon right now, because, if you draw any of those pieces, it's just a dead card. You've got to combo with 4 cards through a hand trap or 3, and, sometimes not all the cards are live. So, yeah, it's kind of cheeks.
Yeah. Okay,
My thing
so
is
let's
with cross out as well.
go ahead, Landon.
My thing is with cross out as well is I don't want to be playing garnets for my called by.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I think crossout can be very good in a deck. Obviously, it's already playing hand traps, but has an obvious choke point to a card that is very common. So I know we've already brought this up, but I think it's very good in Prank Kids specifically, because even though Meow did get hit to 1, you now can negate Ash far more easily, which I think is big.
I never thought of that.
It's
Yeah,
you're
that's
already
actually
playing the hand traps.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think, and I think, Sam, with what you're saying is true. And that's why I think post-Bode, Evil Twin is going to be a really, really good choice. Because they only play 20 engine cards, and you can play 20 non-engine cards. So you can play the called by the 3 designator and then the 16 hand traps you want, right? And you don't even have to play 40 cards, because any of your 20 cards get you started. So you could actually go 42 or something. But what I'm saying is you're right. Absolutely. Decks that are ready play hand traps are insane.
1 carders. It's all 1 carders. Anything that can be a 1 card engine, which Konami loves. I mean, that's technically even something I don't know if we're going to go into it or not, but post burst, same with Tri Brigade, the bird deck, same thing.
Even now, I think Tri Brigade gets a lot.
Let's move over to the ban list.
Hold on a sec. One last thing. So going back on what Tristan said on what other cards.
This guy. Stop it, Danny.
Yeah,
Stop going back. We only go forward in time. Stop it.
Yeah.
We're talking about the ban list. Sorry.
So going back on what Tristan said.
Oh my god.
What card? What, bro? Are you joking right now? I can't tell if you're serious.
Danny, just go.
Just go. I'm just fucking with you.
Shoot your shot.
So
I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. But going back on what he was saying, what other cards do you guys think would be insane if you guys are saying, decks are going to change, you're going to see people playing Astral, Nib, what other hand traps do you guys actually think are going to see in the meta? Do you think Ogre or cards?
So here's my thing, is I think that another proper way to go around this is just play a deck where this doesn't matter. For example, if you play Eldritch, it doesn't matter. You just killed every designator in everyone's deck and all the targets they're playing for, because it doesn't do anything to you.
That's the angle I'm going.
Right? And I'm just that too. That's what I'm saying. You can choose to play another deck that just no one's playing around, and designator's dead. But here's the issue. In Yu-Gi-Oh, the majority of the games you play are side decked. So you really just want a 33% advantage for like the other 66% of the time. You know what I mean? Like you got to pick and choose here. But I'm just saying, like, stuff like that is definitely going to be an option. Or, yeah, maybe you might see, like, an Ogre or a Mourner or like, other cards that do relatively the same-ish kind of stuff, but just because you know your opponent can't cross that designator it. I think we'll start seeing a little bit of that. And that is what I'm talking about when you're deck building going into, like, events. Is, like, you're going to have to really choose which hand traps you play. If you choose hand traps.
That makes sense. All right, we done with the subject, or?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're good.
All right, Javi, take it away.
All right, so with this new ban list coming up, right? What do you guys, especially with the new set coming out, what do you guys think are the projected top 3 decks in your opinion?
So, Javi, when you ask this question, are you saying post Bode or post this ban list coming next week?
Let's go with when the ban list starts first, and then post Bode.
So,
Because Bode is a big step.
Yeah, because Bode's not until like another month after the ban list.
okay, so here's my opinion. I think Dragon and Drytron are still insane because Drytron can still end on 4 to 5 negates, regardless with 1 Eva. So it made no difference. Like, yeah, now you can't just negate the 6th card. Ooh, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh no, you have to be smart with your negates. Oh no.
yeah, you know what I mean. You got to be in quotation smart.
What
What else? What else changed in this ban list is Meow. Oh, Barrage. No, okay, I'm really happy Barrage and yeah, I'm happy those 2 cards went down because Tri Brigade was getting a little ridiculous. I think, and I know I'm gonna sound like super salt master here, but I honestly think Appaloosa is a card that needs to be banned, and it's really degenerate that I think that like that deck can just make it so consistently, so easily under 5 summons with no effort whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Hey,
that card's fine.
and that's fine. Okay, no, and that's fine. And like I said, it's just my opinion. I just don't think there should ever be generic cards that can just put up negates. I just don't think that's like healthy Yu-Gi-Oh. That's not the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh I want to play.
Because the Tri Brigade cheats out Link monsters.
Like it's nothing.
Now Apple,
free.
like Nibiru is just like free against combo though.
And it's a balance, right? Like Apple is
like you can still attack over Apple. You can still
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and you can still MST Mystic Mind, but that doesn't mean Mystic Mind is fair.
God dang. Yo.
And that's what I'm saying though. And that's all I'm saying is I do not like generic.
I mean, you can say the same thing about Io.
Savage.
Like,
I say the same thing.
Everyone's playing
absolutely
for Io, but
that's what I'm saying though. But that's what I'm saying. Everything has
like exactly like Savage.
And that's what I'm saying. But what I'm telling you guys is I do not enjoy card design that involves generic negates. That's what I'm saying. And all I'm saying is in most healthy formats, end boards were not ending on hard negates during really good formats. Like Necros did not end on a generic like negate. It ended on an extra deck skill drain that every deck can play around, right? Like Zoo ended on a Trident, right?
Luck,
like
nothing crazy.
Yeah,
okay, that's full power.
But the thing is that exactly there was the Jin lock and like those formats you just listed were like, I mean Necros kind of at the beginning especially, those were like tier 0 formats.
At the beginning, yeah, but that was only like, one event, right?
Those
like
no,
but Necros was one format
because they got hit.
Tier 0. Yes, they had to hit it. But I'm talking about like the entirety of Necros, not just the one.
But to be honest with you, I think those negates. See, okay, this is my problem is that when we have to play, and I think this is what I'm not gonna use the words healthy or unhealthy because I never like to define Yu-Gi-Oh like that. I always think like Yu-Gi-Oh's Yu-Gi-Oh. Every format you have a best deck, you have tier 2 decks, right? Like you have but your best deck is always, bouncing up and down based off of whatever does well, right? It's like a meta call always. So like I don't use the words healthy or unhealthy. And like I know so many players are like, oh, this format was good, this format sucked. At the end of the day, you always the same in my opinion, where you have the top decks and then you have not the top decks, right? It's just how it always is. The way the decks function, that differs. But at the end of the day, the whole overall concept of Yu-Gi-Oh is the same. But anyways, so basically it's just like when you're looking at it from a stance of like why we think that right now, and I'll use the word unhealthy, why the game is unhealthy. It's unhealthy because it's stale, it's boring. We have the same format. We've had the same format for the past this entire pandemic, right? So I think that's the only reason why like I consider it. I also think that like we have to play like for Drytron, you have to play, I think it's, you know, I think it's like 12 hand traps in the main deck, and then probably, I think in total, like post side, you're looking anywhere from like 14 to 18 hand traps, right? Because like in my Dragon Link deck, I played 12. I tried to strive for 12 that I had so that I don't lose that game one against Drytron. But like you can't play board breakers, and there's two reasons to it. There's big, and I think people elude one of these reasons why you can't play board breakers, but I think the first reason is obviously you have a deck like Drytron that, you know, you just can't. Like they're just going to generate so much. They have an ultimateness. If you negate that ultimateness with Droplet, they still have, you know, two
negates with two oranges.
Yeah, which technically isn't a big thing, but you got to think about the drawback in Droplet, which is you're discarding cards, right?
Yeah.
So and then the second reason, which I think people don't really allude to a whole lot, is like Landon was saying earlier, IO. Like even though it's one card, I've had it so many times where sometimes when cards like Droplet, Talents, Dark Ruler start seeing play, like 2 formats ago when I was playing D-Link, I just played Anti-Spell Imperial Order. And the chances of drawing it, I would start Yuja Turbo into it. And like when you look at Fairjeet right now, Fairjeet can almost basically, you know, turbo into it, or not really. It's like drawing.
Give you another chance. It gives you another chance to see your side deck cards. Because you get to search all your shit first and then you draw. And that's what's so stupid. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you have prosperity. You have, so like that's where I think like I don't think that board breakers can be played. I think that's why we saw like a huge downfall. And what was that card's name? Alpha Beast, was it?
Oh yeah, Alpha Beast, the master.
Yeah, like that card had so much hype pre-try, and that card just fell off the face of the planet. Like never saw it because of Drytron and like the boards that it can make. If it was just Dragon Link and the board that Dragon Link can make, absolutely. If it's just Dragon Link, play board breakers, go ahead, right? But even that ability to have cards like Anti-Spell Imperial Order, I think that's what makes board breakers not that great, which people don't.
And the other issue I see with board breakers is you still need to have the cards to combo and break their board. And if they have traps in their hand, like hand traps, it still makes it so difficult for even those board breakers to even do their job. Because, like, let's say then they stop you, right? And then you're like, okay, well, that was my only push because I dropleted it. I set 2 cards. I try to combo you with my Drytron. You negate it. Now I have 1 other card in my hand. Okay, I lose. Like, you know what I mean? And that's the issue I'm seeing with board breakers is that, especially specifically with droplets, is that if, let's say you droplets a Herald, right? Okay, I dump a card. So now I'm down to 4 cards. They have 2 hard negates. So that if I'm playing like Tri-Brigade, all they have to do is wait till my normal summon effect and then my Tri-Brigade effect in hand. I lose. You know what I mean? There's no other extenders past that point. So if your opponent's smart, they'll just wait for your 2, like, the pushes. You know what I mean? And that's why I see, like, as board breakers kind of pointless right now. I won't say that I think they'll be unplayable all the time, but in the moment, in this format, yeah, I just don't see... Like, the only deck I could see be playing board breakers is Drytron, because they can't afford to play hand traps. Because their hand traps that they use are not impactful against too many meta-relevant decks, and that there's too many decks. So you can't kind of just be like, oh, well, Nibiru is good against everything, you know, but it's not. Because there's a bunch of other decks it's not good against. Or you're like, okay, I can play Ash. But the thing is, if you play Ash, it's not impactful enough again to stop anything. So that's the problem I'm having with the format.
Okay. And what about past bursts of Destiny? What do you guys think?
The best deck? I mean, I'm going to be real with you. I don't think the new decks are really, like, crazy. Okay, I think Sword Soul is very consistent at what they do. And I think that's why we'll see that deck played. And I think we'll see Evil Twin played over Prank Kids because it's just literally a better version of that deck, in my opinion. You get to draw like off
You'll
one combo,
see-
you draw 3 cards. Off if you summon the
Yeah,
Dark Lilla, you draw 3 cards. If you drop Kissikill, you draw 2 cards. You know what I mean? Like there's and I think that's really good when half your deck is hand traps. It just makes your draw so much better, and you still have a pop and a draw in interruption with the new Sunny. That's really good. And plus, if you get, let's say they Nibiru you, which was a huge problem before, right? Now any of the 9 spells gets you through the Nibiru or the Veiler or whatever it is. The cards are much better post set because of their new monster.
Horse crazy.
Yeah, I think like that deck's gonna be good. What else? Flunderies. People are hyping up Flunderies. Like that deck. There's so many hand traps.
What did you call it, Tristan? Flunderies in the city of what?
Oh, in the City of Dreams.
The city of dreams.
So yeah, Flunderies. Like I think that deck will be like kind of like a new kind of everyone's hyped about it. Everyone's gonna think it's crazy, and then they're gonna play the deck and get hand trapped twice. Even if you play the field spell, like if they have 2 hand traps, it doesn't matter, right? Like it's not. That deck isn't crazy.
About that deck is it's such a dice roll deck. It's so reliant on going first, and like game 2, it just folds.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah, the very minimal. Like if you put an Appaloosa up, that deck beats it.
Exactly.
That beats the deck. That beats the deck. You can chain block 1 effect. Who cares? Because then on the next chain, they're just like, okay, Appaloosa negate that. Now what do you do? And then you're like, okay, you're right. I don't do anything. I pick up my cards. Like that's what I'm saying. Like these decks are not insane. They're not.
I think I think Tristan is in the city of dreams sometimes because like I think here's the thing is that because Javi, to answer your question, what's going to end up happening is that people are so bored of the decks that we currently have. They're going to play the new decks and they're going to have a high representation, which are going to make people believe that those are the best decks. This actually reminds me last year around, not this time, it was around December time. It was when we had Dragon Link with Buster Lock. We had Infernoble Hand Loop. And then we had Virtual World that just came out, right? Yeah, Calamities was really good, no doubt, right? But if you're telling me like Virtual World was like the best deck that format, no, it definitely wasn't. It was new. It was something that people hadn't seen. In my opinion, Infernoble was still the best deck that format because you just use Smoke Grenade and you look at the card, and that's why Virtual World didn't get hit. It was a new deck, obviously, so it's not going to get hit. But there were other problemsome decks, and like even now, like none of the decks coming out are better than the decks that we currently have. I think like numerous pro players have come to that realization. I think in terms of what we're saying is going to be the best deck, I think it's arguable. Oh, I think it's arguable that like the decks that we currently still have are better. If we're looking at in terms of like how we're, by best deck, we always look at representation and how it does. I just think people are going to be bored and they're going to want to play new decks. Like I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. Like when we talk about best deck, we're not talking about the most represented deck, right? We're talking about like the best engine deck. But in order to judge that, we base it off of events. And if an event has a high representation of, like, let's say if a Sword Soul deck wins, then we think that Sword Soul is the best deck, but it also had such a high representation. So yeah, but that's my thing though. I don't try to tie, like, those things don't really tie. Because, for example, like Striker Goki format, there is a lot of more Striker than Goki, but Goki was definitely better than Striker. No doubt in my mind. You know what I mean? Fire Fist, Mermail format, right? There was a lot more Fire Fist, but Mermail was definitely a better deck. You know what I mean? Like, it's just what your concept of what the best deck is, what means to you. So for me, when I think of the best deck, I'm thinking of the deck with the best engine, right? That's what I'm thinking of. When I think of the most represented deck, I'm thinking Tri-Brigade. During the YCS, Tri-Brigade was just fucking everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it definitely wasn't the best deck, though.
Yeah, but then you look at the amount of wins that it had. I mean, that's your... again, these are opinions, right?
Right, yeah. This is where you and I differ.
Yeah, but I think what the general player base depends it off of is how it does that. I mean, we do that even as players.
Yeah, and I agree with you that the average player thinks about it like that. Like,
I
what
think
is the most represented deck?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say average, but I would say like the
majority of players. Yes.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's correct. It's been proven through history that is not correct.
I think a big reason that Tri Brigade has a lot of representation is because it's honestly just so easy. It's very
easy to play.
It does what it has to do at a consistent rate,
and it's very simple to understand. You don't really have to like all your monsters have the same good effect to just shit out boss monsters. You know,
I don't understand.
You just have to learn a few free flow.
100% vouch for that. I sat down at the locals in Washington. I read my cards. The first game, I got destroyed. Second game, I played against Willie, and it was over.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, it's just, I think at event, like every event, there's like a best deck, like a most represented deck, and then the best deck is the one who's going to beat the most represented deck. And that kind of, like in Eternal format, the best deck constantly rotated because all decks were pretty equal, in my opinion. Like Thunder had the best engine. Like, don't get me wrong, but like they didn't win as nearly much events.
Colossus?
Yeah, exactly. Fucking dude, I still get nightmares of that card.
The 9-round tournament and you're main decking a card that came out in like 2002. Like,
I do like what Nav had to say about this, which is it's hard to quantify the best deck. There's too many different definitions. Is the best deck the best in a vacuum, the best performing, the most represented, the deck the most successful players are playing? It really depends on how you look at the concept.
But this is where I agree with Darren, is that most people will say the most represented deck is the best deck because, bro, I'm not even joking. When that, not this last ban list, but the ban list before, bro, everyone was like, Tri Brigade best deck. And I'm like, you guys are high as fuck. Because you only have 2 pushes per turn. Like, in my head, I'm just like, I don't understand where you think this is the best deck. I play Tri Brigade because I understood it wasn't the best deck, but it gave me the deck that gave me the most chances to play defensive cards. At least I thought. I should have played Prank Kids. Obviously. I mean, that deck won the event, but the reason why I say play Prank Kids is because they were able to play so many different hand traps. No, but I'm saying between Tri Brigade and Prank Kids, and also people weren't playing Nibiru for the event, right? So, like, because obviously Nibiru did nothing against Tri Brigade, which is most represented, so Prank Kids got a little bit of the boost from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, again, I think people's opinion, I agree with you that we look at engine, but if we're looking at it from like an overall arching, how people define Yu-Gi-Oh! And a best deck, obviously that's changes, right? That changes and it's variable because there's no such thing as like, in my opinion, like you can do like your top 5 meta list. I don't necessarily say like what the best deck is. For me, the best deck is like when I prepared for the YCS was what am I most comfortable with and what's the most consistent and what do I honestly believe? And this is what it comes down to, is that any deck can win. Like we just saw Altergeist win today. I don't know if that's on our schedule to talk about, but we just saw Altergeist win today. And like you're telling me like
Altergeist is the best.
Yeah, here's my thing, Aaron. You also said it. When we get to the end of the format, people just play other decks. Right? And that's what, even for this invitational, bro, there were 7 different decks. And so that's what I think that theory applies here, is because we got so close to the end of the format, bro. Even when I watched the invitation qualifiers, when I watched the invitational, bro, there's too many decks. And like that's what I don't like about Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, is that there's too many different decks. Yes,
that's what people like. That's what people like.
Yes, and I agree that they have to exist at some point, right? Mm-hmm. But this has existed for too long.
Because when you look at the player base of like when the most amount of people quit, it's tier 0 formats.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's not true because Zoo had one of the biggest nationals of all time. It broke the record for that year.
For that year, yeah, but then I don't know.
I mean, like that Nats was the biggest Nats. Like events constantly break records, so I can't say that that's true because I think in our area specifically, that's what we see, right? Like at our regionals do get smaller during tier zeros. But when you go to YCSs and like other events, those are huge. And you know why? Because those people are like, well, this is a format where we get to interact back and forth. Those are usually the tier zeros. I'm not talking about Spiral. That was absurd. That was some crazy format. Like, there was no interaction. But like most tier zero formats, even full power Pepe, you got to interact because we didn't have Photon, Shockmaster, and Azathoth, and you know, we were ending on Infinity Rafflesia. You know, our deck wasn't like insane. Or what's another one? Zoo, like not insane.
Zoo was like Infernoid, Grass.
Yeah, like
Zoo.
It wasn't crazy.
That was a good one.
In Pepe, you did have to play through Wavering Eyes, though. That was pretty big.
Yeah, but my thing is my thing about that was what kind of made that fair is that you had 3 of your own Wavering Eyes and 3 damage jugglers. So you had 6 cards.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
I know it
6
sucks. Don't get me wrong, it sucks, right? But bad players wouldn't hold those cards. That's the thing. Bad players never hold those cards. They just were like, okay, I'm gonna go for it, and then you're just like, okay, get punished, and then they're like, oh,
And they're like,
okay,
activate another Wavering Eyes. And you're like, oh.
no, and I mean, yeah, and obviously those situations suck, right? But like, bro, I remember there were so many times where my opponent would be like, oh, I'm gonna scale 2 random cards, activate Wavering Eyes, and then they get damage jugglered, and then I'm like,
And then they're
okay.
stuck.
Yeah, and they're
Stuck
like,
with the like uneven scales. Oh.
yeah, and I'm like, okay,
good.
like you're really good, bro. Like this is the full power Pepe mirror, draw for turn, you know, or you know, like it's stuff like that. And the thing is, you can also the healthy part about that format was that you can crack boards back and forth. Like it wasn't over in like 2 turns.
I think I just would have enjoyed that format a lot more, and I did enjoy that format.
Me too.
If Wavering Eyes had just not been there.
Existed,
Like,
I agree, and that's why I always offered to side it out because it was a toxic card.
Wasn't it banned though?
No, not at the time. It was at
got
3.
banned after that, I think. It might have been the format after that, but either way, it got banned soon after.
Yeah, I just remember one time my opponent Wavering Eyes my scales and then searched an eccentric and then fucked me up. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it just feels bad, man.
yeah, it's every format. Don't get me wrong. Every format, there's something degenerate about it. Either it be Colossus in Eternal or freaking Buster Lock or Infernoble. Every format has something. Fusion sub for Zoo format for the majority of it was toxic.
Oh my.
You know what I mean? Max C at once.
Norden.
Let me ask you this, like in a different sense, I should say. So, like, you know how you're saying, like, you're talking about like every best deck, right? For like what your definition is.
Yeah.
What would you say would be like the best deck for like events? Like, how would you? Do you think it's just like a meta call and you just like go for it, or do you think that there's like times where like people don't realize that like. You know,
So-
like for example, when like Fusion Sub Zoo came out, right? Nobody knew about it. We should have played it for that. But like, was there like something else that we should have played to counter that, or do you think like I don't know?
No. So here's the thing: when you walk into an event, right, and you have a combo like Fusion Sub that no one else in the room has, that's when you need to play that, right?
Yeah.
But once everyone else knows it, then you got to switch it up. So for example, like in that format, I started that format at Fusion Sub, right? As soon as everyone knew Fusion Sub, then it became a dice roll in the Zoo mirror, right? And so you either had to play 17 hand traps and interact like that and hope you draw, or you played a different deck. Like, for example, Paleo, 60 cards, and you just outgrind them every single time with your board.
Yeah,
Like,
that
you
deck was
have-
so good.
Mhm.
I'm a huge fan of consistency factors too. Like just playing decks that have like the most consistency in them, because you're going to be playing 9-10 rounds of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, but like, go ahead.
I was gonna say I wouldn't want to play a deck that's like has a really high upside but also has like a really low downside, or a deck that's like very fragile. It's really good but also loses to like one hand trap. And I think that's why like Tri Brigade is also really good right now, is because it just doesn't just lose to a single thing, and it's really consistent.
Okay. Oh yeah, and I agree with that. Like, outside of Lancia, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to like those surprise combos, like for like the meta thing, like Tristan was talking about, yeah, if you have that surprise combo that absolutely no one knows, like what was it, fucking
Goki Loop 6.
Yeah,
Danny?
like Goki Loop 6, or like, yo, back in like one of the regionals I played at, it was Dragon Rulers, but like it was when Mythic Dragons just came out, and everyone like didn't know what Mythic Dragons do, and Felgrand, and only me and one other person in the whole regionals in Seattle played Mythic Rulers. And we both top four it easy. It was like the easiest top four of our lives.
Yeah,
with
because
the
you
Mythic
had
Rulers.
such a
Yeah, because like we just had the whole combo, and everyone's like, "What the hell?" Like, yeah, dude, why didn't you guys do this in Shadow Specters? Like, yeah, like once you have like that advantage combo, that's the surprise factor for that event, and then post that event, everyone knows, right? Like, it's like that Fusion
so
sub
big.
Norden, yeah.
So this is my answer to your question, Danny. I think the best deck going into events is the deck that beats the most represented deck. And I know that sounds kind of like weird, but it's true. Like whatever the in quotation best deck, most represented deck is in the room, you just build the deck that's better than it. For example, like for Dragon, like Dinosaur, like that was huge for a little bit.
Like looking into like zoo format, right? Like when we went to Nats and we knew we were gonna play every mirror match, you just made that cards that beat the mirror match.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we did, right? Like it's just whatever. Or like Logan, okay? Logan, you Pendulum Magician was the best deck going into Utah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna play like Trickstar Traps, and I'm just gonna beat them with trap cards every time. And it didn't matter if they went first or second because his deck was so built to beat Pendulum that the dice roll didn't matter. He would just strike rivalry, strike goes in, storming goes in. You know what I mean? Like the way the deck was built was made to just beat the most represented deck, Pendulum Magician, like 90% of the time. And that's what his deck did. Like it really, and I'm not saying Logan's deck was the best deck ever or anything. Like, I mean, he did go undefeated in Swiss, but it definitely did its job where it beat the most represented deck the majority of the time. And that's the kind of decks that you should probably think about taking to an event. In my opinion. I think Darren and I differ there, right? Darren?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure. I know we differ very differently here in our opinions.
What's your input on that? On like your on what you think about that? What real quick, because we have a question from chat too, Tristan.
Mm-hmm.
Is the deck that beats the most represented deck the best deck if the most represented deck isn't represented than more than 60% of the field?
Yeah, because your deck is made to beat the meta pretty much, right? Like Logan didn't just put in 22 cards that beat Pendulum Magician, right? He would have to, you know, okay, I have to main a Solemn Judgment here because Masterpiece is still a problem, and I want to have a chance to at least out that card. But Solemn still, you know, like trap cards. The thing about trap cards is that they diversify in value. Right, and that's why it worked out for Logan, is because those trap cards weren't just dead against other decks, right? They're still trap cards that worked against their monsters. Now, True Draco was definitely a bad matchup, but Logan understood that if he just stayed at the top tables, he will see Pendulum Magician the majority of the time. And so, sorry, one last thing. So to answer his question, I think that the best deck. There's a different best deck at every single tournament you go to. It just depends on what the most represented deck is and how you deck build towards that.
I think your definition. Hold on 1 second. I think your definition of what you're terming as the best deck. I think you're mixing the two, which is the best deck for an event that you're going into versus the best deck of a format.
No,
if you're looking at the best deck of a format, like the thing is, the reason why we coined the term best deck, and I think similar to what your chat was saying, Danny, I actually agree with what they're saying. We term best deck because, like, when I lose to something that I know I shouldn't lose to, like I remember I was playing Dragon Link and someone was playing Mech Knights, and I'm just like, well, I know my deck is better because my deck is the best deck of the format, and my engine, that just means my engine is better, right? Because someone, and like his counters my deck, but at the same time, my engine is more consistent and better, right? So the thing is that there's two, I think, like, we're kind of mixing in two things.
So No, so Darren, that's why I said when I explained this at the beginning, I differentiated the two. Okay, and this is what the best deck.
But I don't think
format.
that. Like, I wouldn't say that's the best deck of the format. Like, Tri Brigade is the best deck of this format because it has the most wins. It's the most consistent. It's not the strongest. Is it the strongest deck? No, absolutely not. But when you look at wins, when you look at what it does, when you look at its engine, absolutely no.
So I have a question. So do you think Necros wasn't that good?
I think Necros was good.
Oh, because Necros only won like one event, so that's why I was wondering.
Until it had to get hit.
Well, no, I mean it only won one event. Like,
yeah, but it was a dominant win. It wasn't just like a semi.
What?
Like,
no. I'm talking about the second list. You know, the not YCS Tacoma, bro.
I was like, that took 30 out of 32 slots.
I know.
Yeah,
I know you guys. Okay, here's my problem. I'm not talking about obviously full power, because full power, if we talk full power anything, full power Pepe took 30 out of 32 spots. You know what I mean? Like, I get that. But I'm saying, do you think Necros was good after the hit?
Yeah.
Okay, but that
which hit? The first one?
The first one.
Yeah.
But it only won one event. But everyone knew Necros was still the best deck, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, though, is that, like, they can win the event. It doesn't mean they're the best deck.
But see, Tristan, again, I think you're confusing the two. Best deck versus what a player should be playing at an event are two very different concepts,
But
right?
that's what I'm saying.
No, but I think you're mixing the two.
No, okay, so let me explain. So the best deck is the deck with the highest ceiling, right? Are we agreeing with that, or are we agreeing on representation?
I wouldn't say that's the case, because I don't think Tri Brigade has the highest ceiling.
Okay.
I think Drytron has the highest ceiling.
Right. And so I think that's where I'm going. So when I say best deck for an event, I'm saying your best deck choice. I'm not saying like I would choose like. One sec, let me think real quick.
No, because you said earlier in the discussion, you were saying that the best deck is a counter to the most represented deck, but I'm saying that's not true, and that's what we were just arguing about or discussing, and now you're going back.
No, you're right. I'm going to defend that. So the best deck is the deck with the highest engine, biggest engine, in my opinion. Okay, that's what I classify as the best deck. But when I'm saying when you go to an event and like you're not gonna play the most represented deck in the room, right? Like you have to make up for that through a lot of different things, and that's why it's a best deck choice. Like for example, when Dragon was everywhere, a good count. Well, back with Buster Lock, right? Because if you Buster Locked, it was over like immediately. There was like no out. There's very minimal outs, right? Unless they play Dino.
Can you define like what your definition of like the biggest engine, like the highest ceiling, in your opinion is?
It's so like think of the deck that does the most with its engine. So for example, in this format, I think Drytron is the highest ceiling, but is it the best deck? Right? Like that's the problem, because I kind of do agree with Darren now, because Drytron hasn't won that many events, but it does have the highest ceiling. Like, and it's definitely a threat. Like, it existing in the meta, like, creates... You have to put 3 Cycle Reader in your side deck. You have to put 3 Joel Mockbird in your side deck. You know what I mean? Like, people are forced to put these cards in against you because your deck is just so absurd. Right? But, again, representation, like... It's tough. There's a lot of different things here.
To explain. Yeah, you can't say, well, it's the best deck, and, like... Because everybody's gonna, like, have outs to that. So... That's gonna be the best deck to out the best deck.
It's just complicated.
It's hard to explain. Yeah.
There's just too many factors.
But I'll break it down. I think that if you're not playing the best deck in the room, right? The best deck. Well, sorry. If everyone is playing the most represented deck, whatever it be, if you play a deck that can consistently beat that most represented deck, then that will probably be the best deck choice. Not the best deck, but the best deck choice for that event. And then there's the best deck, right? And then, well, the best deck for me is the highest ceiling, and then there's the most represented deck. Okay, so like, there's a lot of different kind of lists made when prepping for an event. It gets complicated. So there's too many factors.
Right. So like, what is doing the most with its engine? Like, because win on the spot combo is doing the most with its engine. So I assume Tristan is counting engines that have a certain threshold of consistency.
Correct. It has to have a certain threshold of consistency. Like Drychon, Goki had any two warriors. Drychon has like Drychon Machine or Drychon, Rich Ben 10 or and the thing is that the links of plays that commence in it with it is something just unbeatable. You know what I mean? It's just whatever it creates is just unfair.
So once Thunderous comes out, it's not gonna be the best deck, right? But it's gonna be the most represented deck.
It's gonna be kind of like playing against Klee at locals.
Yeah, it actually is going to be the same thing.
Oh man, Pono, your time to shine.
I told him. I literally told Pono the other day. I was like, bro, you gotta come back and play Flunderies. It's Klee all over again.
Yes, sir.
But speaking of Bode stuff, how do you guys feel about the new Destiny Hero Fusion?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you just brought that up.
Yes.
I was like,
Such a good card.
What were you saying there?
I was like, who's gonna bring this up? The Destiny Hero card coming
Oh,
out.
of course, the hero player. Come on now.
Yeah. God.
Do you guys want to save it for the next podcast, or you guys want to do it now?
No, we'll do it now.
Let's have a brief discussion now, and we can have a more in-depth discussion next time for sure.
Agree.
It's still going to be relevant then. So,
all right.
Look forward to for the next one.
So what? Is it 3 Fusion Destiny, Dasher Celestial, and then the Fusion dude.
So for those who are listening and don't know, Destroy Phoenix Enforcer is a fusion that requires, I think, a Destiny hero and a level 5 or higher Dark hero.
Level 6 or no, it's a level 6 or higher hero monster.
Yeah, you're right.
Plus 1 Destiny hero.
It can't use Dynamite, dude. Yep, you're right.
Yep.
But it's amazing because Fusion Destiny is a much better fusion spell than REF. Than Red Eyes. And the Garnets are actual effect monsters, which is far different. I mean, they give you follow-up plays. Dasher can have some relevancy. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it comes up.
It's also pretty insane in like decks that can even use like Mali, right? Like decks that can utilize like free pluses for like the follow turn.
Mali and Denier are really good cards.
And Destiny Hero Plasma, oh my god!
Yeah, literally draw a monster specially for
that
free.
card being that card being a Garnet is actually a very good Garnet.
It's the perfect discard fodder.
Yeah, and then if you summon it, it's just like, oh my god.
It's so GG. It's so game.
Yeah.
So here's my. I got.
that...
Oh, Danny, I'm sorry. You can finish.
Okay, real quick, but the fact that Fusion Destiny can be played at the end of your turn too, after you've already combo, is literally just
and
like,
no restrictions.
Yeah, because the restrictions for the rest of the turn.
Yeah,
That's
which makes
I love that.
So I have a question. What do you guys think of Dragoon versus or Dragoon versus the new Phoenix Enforcer?
I think going back to what you were saying about consistency, like it's definitely better in my opinion. Just because if you draw it, it's great. You can play it with Verde still, and it's not that much of a brick when you think about it, right? Like when you're playing like Red Eyes, Black Dragon, and Dark Magician, you're like, man, this card sucks. But when you draw like what Sam was saying, if you draw any of the Destiny Hero cards, they're all like discard extenders, right? Like they do stuff in graveyard.
I like to read the Ultimate Wizard in terms of attack and defense. I don't know what you got.
Or the Ferocious Dragon with a deadly attack. Come on.
All right.
Yeah, you love those, right?
Everyone hate on Danny for this because you know what?
You know what? If you hate Danny for that, subscribe to this video. Like
please.
it.
Drop a comment.
Together.
Share it on every social media platform because you hate it so much. Tell everyone you hate it.
Exactly. We hate it. That's it. Trend worldwide.
Yes.
Damn. Hey, Danny.
Let him know.
No. Don't do that, Danny, man.
Yeah. And if you like me, follow me on Twitch.
Yeah. If you hate Danny, follow him on Twitch. It'll be great.
Troll
for
me
you.
here. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Troll us live during the podcast.
Yeah. And if you really hate him, make sure you donate to him at least $10 to let him know.
Oh my
to let him know
goodness.
that you really don't like him.
I love it.
No.
Yeah,
Actually,
for
what
sure.
we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be starting a GoFundMe for Darren to get him a new microphone.
Yes.
Darren and Wilmer, holy.
Dude, Jesus.
Oh.
Well, I'm supposed to buy somebody's mic hopefully soon. So
Oh God, yes.
Well, all right, guys. Well, this is all the time we have for today. First
Wait,
of all,
hold
we'd
on,
like
hold
to say, whoa, what's going on? What's going on?
I didn't
You
even
okay?
get to talk about the Destiny card.
Okay,
This is
let's-
so messed
No,
up.
true.
No,
Go ahead,
no.
Tristan. Actually,
No.
he did let Daniel talk.
This.
I have
Okay.
Can't believe you wouldn't
All
let him
right,
talk.
all right. Brief talk for the Destiny card from Tristan.
Okay,
Let's
so
do it.
I
Let's do it.
think the card is absolutely absurd coming into our next format, and I'm going to tell you what. Because let's say like you summon Dragoon, it's kind of like a towers, right? You kind of want it to stick the entire time. But the thing is like the Destiny hero card will always practically exchange with at least 2 cards and come back. Because even if they strike it, it gets to come back, right? It's whenever it's destroyed.
Yes.
Yeah.
If
Yes.
this card is destroyed
It
by
is-
battle or
yes.
card effect.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So this card, as soon as it hits the field, will probably always guarantee to exchange with 2 cards. And I think that's what's stupid about it. And the fact that in a mid-range matchup, like you get to pop a card on your turn, right? Then on their turn, it comes back. So now it's a Dryden. Now back on your turn, it clears another back row. You know what I mean? Like it's just if you summon it, you're in an unfair position. Your opponent is in a very unfair position. Like especially in kind of like when decks are slower, like the new decks coming out, like they're not like crazy OTK decks. You know what I mean? Like they're not combo heavy deck. Kind of interact back and forth. That's why I think that card's gonna be absurd over Dragoon. Because like if you just like stop, let's say Evil Twin, right? You just stop them and then they out your Dragoon. Right? It's like, okay, whatever. Now Dragoon's gone and out of the way. But the Enforcer will never stop coming, bro. Like, I still have nightmares about that card.
You'll never stop.
I just want to play Sky Striker with that card.
Okay, and on that
no,
note, bro,
so sick and striker.
I'm out, bro.
Oh God.
can't wait to play with Meltdown.
I'm sick.
It's gonna be dope to see like Crossout Designator banished to the fusion from spell from deck too.
That sounds yummy.
That's gonna be an interesting interaction, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean,
Well,
So-
before we end this, anyone have any shout outs? I know Danny should have one.
oh God, yeah.
Is there any questions in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
good one.
does anybody in chat have any questions before we end? Yeah.
We should probably tell them we're gonna try to do this every 2 weeks.
Every 2
Yeah,
weeks.
we're gonna
And
try to
then-
do this every 2 weeks.
Yeah, at least once a month, but goal is every 2 weeks.
How is Tristan so handsome? It's unfair.
I don't know, bro. Sometimes you just gotta go to the
He's
creamery.
creamy. Oh
Hey,
God,
make
yes.
sure you guys add them on
Blue
Facebook
face,
so you guys can get the
Yep.
extra creamy stories.
Mm.
We're on the Discord too.
Yeah, if you guys want to know when we're going to be doing this, make sure you guys join the Discord. It'll be in the description below as well, where you guys can join. You guys can come and talk to everybody in Genesis. If you guys want to just hang out,
And you
we'll
can
have that
come.
for you guys.
You can come.
Anybody's
Yeah.
free to come.
You can come. You can definitely come.
So, did we get any questions in chat for Tristan specifically?
Whoa.
We-
Questions?
CJ, we answered like half of those questions.
Hell yeah.
Best
That's
hand
what I like to
traps?
hear.
It
Just
does.
half of them?
The thing
At
is,
least
That's
66%.
yeah,
I agree.
it just depends. So one of the question is best side deck cards. Okay.
So,
So
bro, if we talk about that, we're gonna be here for an
That-
hour.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
true. We you can ask the questions. You know, we can talk about it on the next podcast.
Next,
Yeah.
next
Or,
The
or
next
we can
one.
set it up this way. How about you guys put it in the little comments and let them know, and we'll put that on
Yeah.
our next agenda for the next
Wait,
one.
wait,
Yeah.
wait, Javi.
We'll
Let me
end
say
at
something
the end of
here.
the stream.
If you guys join the Discord, we're going to have a section in the Discord for you guys to send us questions, and then we will answer on the next podcast.
Oh God, yes.
Yep. Yeah,
True.
so hey, so our biggest thing is the Discord. If you guys come join the Discord, we have sections for you guys where we all as a team interact with you guys. Me, Danny, Darren, Landon, Sam, Pono, Willie, all of us will interact with you guys through the Discord. It's just easiest for us in the most organized way. If you guys want to hang out with us, you know, we also hang out in other voice channels. You guys are more than welcome to join us then.
You guys want to do remote duels? There's tables set up for voice channels.
Yeah, you know, whenever we're doing things, you know, you guys are more than welcome through the Discord. And like I said, questions, card discussions, card rulings. If you guys have side deck questions, if you guys have questions on our choices, you know, that's what the Discord's there for.
Dragon Balls.
Sir.
You guys can also check out the Discord where we're gonna have emotes of Tristan soon. So.
Oh, God, yes. Welcome to the... Oh no! Oh no! I know what that is.
I've ascended, baby. I've ascended.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I have
no.
some to contribute, so we're good.
They got me. I forgot.
And Danny, where can they find you on Twitch?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Daniel Ramirez Medina.
Oh God, yes.
You can also find the other two Genesis streamers in here, which is Genesis Panda and Genesis Wilmer, as well on Twitch.
Hell yeah.
You guys want to shout out your Twitches? Go ahead.
I mean, he just did. It was
He just did.
Twitch TV/Genesis Panda. All right.
Oh, is it just that? Okay.
It's just
fair
Genesis
enough.
Panda. Yeah, it's all one name. You know. Same thing with Genesis Wilmer.
I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. Like I said, first of all, I want to say thank you to Danny for hosting us on his Twitch. We really appreciate that, and thank you to all the guys that attended. It really means a lot to me that you guys are willing to take the time out of your day to come in here and just really, you know, just put some knowledge on everybody. I really appreciate it. With that being said, yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Yep.
And you guys-